Well, hello, Econ 120. This is our last session, and I just want to say thank you so much for a great semester. I'm really proud of you. I think you did a great job of transitioning online, and I hope you have a great summer and good luck on your finals. For today, we're going to review the second midterm, and I'm going to answer all the questions. And when I'm done, I'll upload not only the videos, but the second midterm solutions to Blackboard, okay? So let's dive right into it. The total production curve indicates the relationship between blank when all other inputs is fixed. Well, let's see. Is it a variable input and price, a variable input and variable cost, a variable input and output, or output and price? So this is a definition problem. And for this one, the answer is C. Oops, not what I want. A variable input and output. Okay? So this is our definition of our production. You own a deli. Which input of production is most likely to be fixed at your deli? So remember, we talked about throughout the semester this idea of short run production. And we need to think about our inputs, right? Now, if you're running a deli, you're probably going to have labor and capital and some other stuff. So let's see what's going on here. Well, our options are dining room, the bread used to make the sandwiches, the tomato sauce used to make soups, and the employees. Well, I feel like labor in the short run for a deli is going to be variable. So I don't think this is going to be a concern. So I'm going to eliminate D because I have a feeling it'll be variable. So we have three things left. And these things here are how you make the products. But you can say you like bread A more than bread B, but bread A is more expensive, so you might use bread B for a little bit and then switch to bread A. So, and the same thing for tomato sauce. So I think here the answer has to be A. It's hard to change buildings or rooms. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Think about running a restaurant. It is likely the case that cooks and hosts are variable resources. A building is a variable resource in the short run. Cheese and other wholesale foods items are fixed resources in the short run, and valet parking staff are fixed resources in the long run. Well, remember, in the long run, everything's variable. So let's eliminate D right away. Say bye-bye to D, everyone. Now, this is similar to the last problem, so let's think through it. Is a building really a variable resource in the short run? No. And what about cheese and other wholesale food items are fixed resources in the short run? Probably not. So by elimination, I think the answer has to be A. And by I think it has to be A, I'm right. Okay? By the way, if you have questions after seeing the video, always feel free to reach out. Diminishing returns means that, is it A, each additional unit of input will decrease output? Well, that's not right. Each additional unit of input will increase output by a smaller and smaller amount as input increases. That sounds about right, but let's see what C says. Each additional unit of input will increase output by larger and larger amounts as input increases. Well, that doesn't sound right. And it's the firm is maximizing profits. Well, that has nothing to do with that, so we'll get rid of that. And so the answer has to be B. So remember, what's happening in this question is that as you increase in, let's say, capital, that you're still getting more and more quantity as you increase your capital, but it's slower and slower. And if I were to draw little tangent lines, see that tangent line's steep, but then the tangent lines are losing their steepness. So it looks like the tangent lines are going to be horizontal in the long run. And that's kind of what we're meaning. For those that are taking a calculus course, you would say it looks something like you start off big and you work. So that's what we mean by decreasing. Marginal cost cannot be calculated as what? Well, what is marginal cost? Well, remember, it's the change in total cost, right, over the change in quantity. So we can rearrange some of this. Remember, it's the change in variable cost plus the change in fixed cost over the change in quantity. But the change in fixed cost is 0, right? So it's also equal to the change in variable cost over the change in quantity. So it looks like A is a way to calculate. B is a calculation. It's the slope of the total cost curve. Well, that's this definition of slope, right? This is literally the slope formula. And so it looks like the one that isn't right is change in average total cost times the change in quantity. The answer here is D. It's the weakest link. If a California avocado stand operates in a perfectly competitive market, the stand's owner will be a price, is it maker, taker, discriminator, or maximizer? Isn't that fun? Well, here we're just simply looking for a definition. And in perfectly competitive markets, the firm is always a price taker. So B. In the model of perfect competition, let's see what the statements say. The consumer is at the mercy of powerful firms that can set prices wherever they prefer. Individual firms can influence the price, but only slightly. No individual or firm has enough power to affect prices, and the price is determined by how many years are left in the product's patent. Well, going by the definition of, again, perfect competition, the answer has to be C. Okay? So again, this is another definition question. Total revenue is a firm's what? Well, remember, total revenue is price times quantity. So let's see if any of these match. It's the change in revenue resulting from a unit change in output. Well, this thing is actually the definition of marginal revenue or marginal benefit. It's the ratio of revenue to quantity. That's not right. It's the difference between revenue and cost. That's profit. And this would be average revenue. So it must be the total output times the price of that output, D. In a perfectly competitive industry, the market demand curve is it's always going to be downward sloping. Again, another definition question. The demand curve faced by a single perfectly competitive firm is perfectly inelastic, perfectly elastic, downward sloping, or relatively but not perfect elastic. And for this one, it's B. Perfectly elastic. Just some intuition, I guess. If a firm decides to change its price to a higher price, well, then all the consumers are going to be like, I'm not buying that. And they'll find another store that sells it for a cheaper price. So they're not willing to take on higher prices. 11, marginal revenue. Well, remember, marginal revenue is the change in total revenue over the change in quantity, right? So is it the slope of the average revenue curve? It's equal to market price and perfect competition. Is the change in quantity divided by the change in total revenue? It's the price divided by the change in quantity. So again, in the models we're looking at, marginal revenue is always going to be the price in perfect competition. The answer here is B. The marginal revenue received by a firm in a perfectly competitive market is greater than the market price, less than the market price, equal to the average revenue, increases with the quantity of output sold. So let's see. For this one, is equal to its average revenue. See. Again, it's just more definitions. Perfectly competitive firms will A, maximize total revenue by using the marginal decision rule, increase output up to the point that marginal revenue of an additional unit of output is greater than marginal cost, increase output to the point that marginal revenue of an additional unit of output is equal to the marginal cost, or D, attempt to minimize average variable cost. So this is asking about a how much decision. And that's always comparing marginal revenue to marginal cost. And so the answer here is C. The equilibrium price of a guidebook is $35 in a perfectly competitive guidebook industry. Our firm produces 10,000 guidebooks on average for an average total cost of $38, a marginal cost of $30, and an average variable cost of $30. Our firm in the short run should A, raise the price of guidebooks because the firm is losing money, keep output the same because the firm is producing at the minimum average variable cost, produce more guidebooks because the next guidebook produced will increase profits by $5, or shut down because the firm is losing money. Well, we see that MC is equal to average variable cost. And so what does that tell us? Well, it looks like the answer here is C. Produce more guidebooks because the next guidebook produced will increase profits by $5. So the answer is C. Okay. So pay attention to the numbers.